Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today I am talking with Sam Jr. You might already know him as a guitarist in the Canadian supergroup collective Broken Social Scene. But with his new self-titled debut solo album, Sam Jr. is reintroducing himself and breaking in a whole new sonic scene, as it were. Instead of the intellectual pop artsiness of his main gig, Sam Jr.'s new release is a blast of old-school psychedelic guitar rock. We're talking fuzzy riffs, wah-wah solos, hazy vocals, funky bongos, and trippy textures. We're talking the Stooges, Jesus and Mary Chain, Primal Scream, and Living Things. And obviously, we're talking about an album that most Broken Social Scene fans might not have expected from this Toronto musician. With all that in mind, Sam Jr. and I got on the Zoom this week to talk about the long road to his solo album, all the rookie mistakes he made along the way, how he likes being his own boss for a change, and plenty more. Here's how it went. Sam Jr., nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. My publicist set this up and sent me the Brendan Canning interview you did, which I thought was very entertaining. I watched a bit of it. I was like, oh, I miss Brendan. He's very articulate, very witty and quick. I'm like, I'm not going to come across like that, unfortunately, but
well, you're doing okay so far.
I'm doing okay so far. I've actually been seeing more of Brendan, which has been nice because he's playing in my band. So I have a little bit of my BSS family involved, which is very, very fun and very nice and always lovely having him around. But yeah, there you have it. He's around.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I'm well, congratulations on having this debut solo album out. How does it feel after all of these years of playing in a million bands and being on a million albums to have something out with your name on it?
Yeah, good question. I was thinking about that when I woke up this morning because the album's been done for about a year. It was mixed about a year ago, and then I started it probably at the beginning of the pandemic. And I was worried I wouldn't remember much about the experience, but it does feel really good to have it done and it's finished because it was something I've always wanted to do. I've always had people ask me, when was I going to make an album of my own and blah, 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 blah over the years. And I was producing a lot of artists. And, when you're producing other people, it really does take a lot of your life energy and your blood. And there were times when I was like, you know what, I need to make something of my own soon because it's going to get to a point where I'm not going to have the energy to do it. but yeah, so I decided to make one. I think it's funny. I was looking through some pictures and I saw a picture of when I was in Montreal. I rented this Airbnb somewhere just to like go and start the process. And the picture said August 8th, 2018. So that's when I actually did start it. I actually made a whole record before this one that I struggled with for a while because I just was still trying to figure out what I wanted to sound like and what just sort of what my approach would be. So I was juggling a lot of I had a lot of pop songs and then also a lot of some bluesy stuff. So I was tormented for a while which direction to go in. Was I a Beatles guy? Was I a Rolling Stones guy? Come on, Sam, figure it out. So I made a bunch of songs, and actually Justin Peroff from Broken Social Scene ended up playing drums on it, and he did a fantastic job. And this wonderful, well-known mixer in Toronto called Josh Karody, who's like amazing at sort of has that shoegaze thing dialed in. I teamed up with him, and we just started working on this record. I recorded the majority of it sort of at home and had Justin, go into a studio and play drums. But the problem with that first record was that I I didn't know what key worked well for my voice. So I would have these songs where I was singing like
But
Mariah Carey.
weren't you singing when you were writing the songs?
Well, that's another thing. I didn't approach it in the more traditional fashion of maybe having an acoustic guitar or a guitar or bass and singing along with it. I just like had my guitar plugged in with all these effects and these crazy rhythms and loops. I just sort of like put all the music there first, then tried to sing on top of it. So all of a sudden I had all these songs in these very different key, like these keys that didn't work with my voice. And I was like, oh my God, my natural spot to go in is too high. Oh, well, I'll just try it. And then, so I had a lot of stuff out of my key, like, and then when I realized, oh, I'm going to want to kind of play these songs live. So when I tried to recreate and play guitar with, these vocals that were way out of my range, I was like, this is not going to work, unfortunately. And there were a few pop songs on there, and I was still on the fence about, oh, I don't know if I want to. I'm a blues guy. I'm a Stones. I'm in the Stone. Like, so I shelved it, and I spent some money on it, which was unfortunate. But in the end, you don't want to put out something you're not, happy with.
You could have just changed you could have just keyed it all down, right? I mean,
oh my God, to re-record everything, there is software where you can do that. But in the end, like I said, yeah, there was some pop stuff there. I was like, I'm not that guy.
Okay.
And
I gotta tell you, for a guy who's been in bands for like what, 30 years now?
Yeah.
These all sound like real rookie mistakes.
I know. I agree with you 100%. I don't know what I was thinking. But, when you go and embark on making something by yourself, and this was another hard thing in the process, you can't look over his shoulder and go, hey, bandmate, do you think this should...
What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah. And that was also very challenging, was not having people to bounce ideas off of. So, but anyways, so that happened. And then I actually sent a lot of those songs out to some friends of mine, some peers, and, I got like, no, just crickets, which is kind of a bad sign. It's no like, hey, that's great. Sounds good. Like there was just no response.
Yeah. When your mom's the only one who likes it, you're in trouble, right?
Exactly. So anyway, so then I realized, what, it just doesn't feel right. I can't play these songs. They're in the wrong key for my voice. And I got to just start again and just, I'm not going to put something out I'm not happy with. So yeah, the pandemic happened. Actually, right before the pandemic, I was hanging with a friend of mine at his studio. It was, Jimmy Shaw from Metric. We were hanging out, and he was playing me this Boards of Canada record, or just a bunch of Boards of Canada songs. I wasn't super familiar with their catalog, but he said something really important to me. He's like, these guys, I'm not sure if they do this with every record, but before they even start a record, they choose their palette of colors beforehand, their palette of sounds. And that really stuck with me. I was like, you know what? Because also on that first record I made, it was just like there was too many ideas, too much instrumentation. I was like, I'm going to try to just like pare down the sounds that I like at that moment. And once I did that, it was really exciting. It's like, I love the sound of a fuzzed out rhythm guitar. For some reason I gravitated towards a wah-wah pedal. I don't know where it came from, but I went and I got one, and it's on every single song on my new album. So I was like, I'm digging the wah-wah pedal. I really like fuzzed out guitars. Drums, bass. I had a synthesizer that my friend lent me that was just like, I'm just going to use that. That's the only one. I just wanted to limit myself. And also on the first record I made, there was a lot of tracks going on, way too many tracks. I said to myself, I'm just going to keep it small, the less tracks, because also when you're mixing music, the less elements are there. Normally the song sounds bigger. When you have to fit in too much, right, it sounds smaller. It's weird, but that's the way to, yeah. So, yeah, once I did that, at the beginning of the pandemic, we had all this time, and all these songs just came flying out of me, especially having this palette of colors. I didn't have to worry about digging and finding different sounds, because like, these are the sounds I like. That's what I'm sticking with. And so it happened, yeah, and it was hard, as I was saying, because can't bounce ideas off of anyone. But I'm really proud of the record. I'm happy that I made it, and I'm shocked that I like it, because I
Oh,
usually
are
don't
you are
like
you
it.
are you generally? I mean, are you always like the worst critic of your own work?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm so slow at writing. It's like I have to, like, I don't realize a song is good or bad until like 3 or 4, 5 months after. It feels like, it's like I can't tell. I have to go away from it for a while and come back and like, okay, this was when I was going through the song selection too. I was like, okay, this one, every time I go back to it, feels right. And yeah,
But you're
I'm
just
really
surprised that
slow.
these have held up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I haven't listened to the record that much recently, so hopefully when I revisit, the album comes out tomorrow,
Yeah.
which is exciting. But hopefully I won't hate any of them. I don't think I will. I think I listened to it enough to know, okay, I'm into this.
Yeah, well,
But
that concept of I mean, I've talked to Jack White about this a few times, and it's one of his sort of guiding principles, and he's not alone in this, is that the best way to do it is you have to build a box, that sonic box, like you're talking about going, I'm going to use these sounds, and I'm going to use this number of tracks, and you think it's limiting, but really it frees you from
oh
all this other stuff, you've got this sandbox to play in, and you can just go.
yeah, no, I agree. Sorry, I lost you there. I was trying to get rid of another window open.
No
No,
worries.
I that's so smart. Yeah, I wish I would have watched that interview, but I eventually learned it. But yeah, it makes so much sense, and it's true. You think it's limiting, but it's not. It's definitely freeing once you commit. And I think most, like, every record out from here on out, like, I've toyed with some new. I'm trying to write some new songs, and I'm trying to introduce other elements, so that I'm into currently. That to just put in that box as well, and maybe remove some of the stuff from this last record that maybe just to switch it up a little. But yeah, it's a great approach,
Yeah.
and more people should know.
Yes, well, they will. Obviously, I think people who only know you from Broken Social Scene, who go, "Oh, I like Broken Social Scene, so I'm going to buy this album." I think they're kind of in for a surprise.
I think they're in for a surprise, because Broken Social Scene is an experimental pop band. I'm making blues rooted music. So, I don't think, I don't know
What
if
advice would
people
you
are,
give them?
I mean, just listen to the music. I mean, if it resonates with you and it does something for you, then great. I mean, I don't, just because you're a Broken Social Scene fan, I don't expect you obviously to be into it. And I'm sure there has been posts on social media, and people have tracked it down, probably went, oof, not into this.
I
you
think I
know,
think they will be, but it is a shift of perspective. I mean, because this is very you can hear everything from the Stooges to Jesus and Mary Chain. There are parts of it that remind me of a band, kind of a lesser known band from a couple of decades ago called The Living Things. Um,
oh
Again, a
yeah,
lot of fuzz, a lot of wah wah. I mean, this whole album seems to spring from the opening 10 seconds of the Stooges 1969,
sure,
That's
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
no,
the
that's
the
that.
the, the seed.
Yeah, it's that. I mean, it's the fuzz guitar. I mean, for sure. I mean, uh it's interesting because I didn't I've always, like, I was just trying to do something original. Like, I wasn't trying to ape anything.
Mhm.
I was keeping it bluesy, but you're gonna get compared to whoever. You can't escape the tonal palettes. Like, there's millions of bands that use fuzz guitar, wah wah, and sort of the same mixing production. So yeah, I can see obviously those comparisons. But yeah, it is very different than the palette of the Broken Social Scene palette, for
Yeah.
sure. So it is different, and yeah, I mean, maybe it's good to sort of bring those Broken Social Scene fans into a different dimension a little bit.
Kind of. And if anybody's willing, I would think to try something new and be a little adventurous, it's your followers, your listeners. So
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So is this like the room where you recorded it?
This is, and I would love to show you this room, but I think I would be very embarrassed because it's in a transition phase. It's filthy.
No worries. No, you don't have to give me the tour. It's just
Yeah, but this is it. This is
the
the
album,
room.
because the album sounds like it should have been recorded, at night, in a windowless, dark basement with maybe a strobe light as your only illumination and a lot of incense and things like that. It doesn't seem
Yeah.
to be. I mean, were you recording this like, sitting there on a Wednesday morning, just, you know, working out on the wah-wah and blazing away on these tracks?
Yeah. It's you know what? Um, I used to prefer working at night, and then because my partner, uh, she has a day job, she's locked in sort of the 9 to 6 grid of things. I had to learn how to like be a morning person and get in that in that zone. So I do work better currently in the morning. So, but it's funny you say that because I was trying to make a nighttime record. Like
Yeah,
I
you
wanted to make,
succeeded.
yeah. I was like, I want to make like a 9 p.m. to like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. record. And near the end, there was a moment in the beginning when, before I found the palette of sounds where, you know, the music that I mostly listen to is pretty mellow. Like I like to relax outside, maybe on my deck, or if I'm like, up north near a body of water, I'm kind of a 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. listening guy. I like mellower music. And for a second, I wanted to make that.
Hmm.
And I have this, it's in a press release, but I saw the Big Lebowski and I was like, what would the dude's band sound like? I was like, I want to do something like, what would his band sound like if he
Mhm.
made a record? So for a while I was like, acoustic and keeping it mellow. Like there's versions of these songs that are sort of like that, like an acoustic
Really?
guitar.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So, but then for some reason, I was, after a few weeks I'd listened, I was like, there was something bugging me. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I'm drawn to fuzzier, sort of more distorted tones. And I think they suit my voice better. And they're just, yeah, I don't know what it is about me that I'm just drawn to the darker 9 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Yeah.
tones. So, Dave Fridman, the guy that mixed it, actually had a lot to do with, pushing it further into that realm.
Yeah, I wanted
But
to ask about him because he's obviously, you know, got a huge, great resume behind him. What was it about him that specifically made you want to get him involved, and then what did he, bring to the table?
um yeah, I've always been obviously a huge fan of his work.
Yeah.
I was in a band in the late 90s called Bodega where we went down and recorded an album with him, and
Hmm.
I've always held on to his number. And I was working with another artist a few years ago that I reached out to him to see if he would want to like mix a song or something just to see. And he was like, you know what? I don't really do one-offs. I prefer to do full albums. And I was like, no problem, all good. And then when it came time to mix my record, I wanted to like get involved in the younger like community of mixers and stuff like that, and just throw them a few songs to see what it would sound like. And I was struggling. I wasn't happy with them. And then I just was like, who could really enhance this record and put it into like a timeless sort of, you know, space? Because his records sort of have like, there's something about his mixes that are timeless to me. Like
Hmm.
they don't date. So I took a shot. I reached out to him and I sent him a song. And he was like, you know what? I really like this. Let me do a song. So he did a song, and it wasn't cheap. And
Why not?
you know,
Not?
I'm not. I don't. I'm paying out of pocket for this stuff. So I don't have Arts and Crafts is putting out my record, but I have a distribution deal with them, so I'm not getting like funding for this. So when he sent back the mix, I was like, holy shit, this sounds amazing, but fuck, it's expensive.
honey, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, I was like, now I gotta get the rest of these songs mixed, because, you know, I couldn't have one mix from someone else sitting beside his. It was just kind of night and day. So yeah, I just reached out to him and he said yes, and I'm really happy he said yes, because he also did it. Yes, some of the songs were not recorded very well from my side. Like they were a bit. He was just amazing at just making the shittier recording elements really come to life. And
that's why he gets the big bucks.
Yeah, and he added his own touches. Like he put little things like.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. What did he add into it?
He just really nailed like the vocal effect that works for my voice, you know, a little bit of distortion with some reverb. Like he really got the vocals down well, and he just did some really cool things. Like he'd take a whole section of the song and just throw it through a flange. It was just like this crazy like explosion all of a sudden, and just like very adventurous. You know, he's been doing it for so long, and I think a lot of people that mix are maybe they're scared to maybe try some ideas, maybe, and he doesn't. He just like goes for it and does like huge moves where you're just like, oh my god, the shaker is louder than the whole song. Like it doesn't make sense,
but it works.
And I'm like, and then I write him, I'm like, oh, dude, like when he sends me in the mix, I'm listening in my car, I'm like, man, that shaker is so loud. He's like, Sammy, don't worry, you're gonna love it in a year from now. Just trust me. And he's right. So it's like it's intense because you're not expecting to hear these huge things. But you know, he'll do cool stuff like a fade up in a song where it's like, you know, how often do you hear that? And just his overall way of mixing. Like he's really good with compression, and just all the tones just fit well. There's no like cringe moments for me where I'm like, oh fuck, I wish it wouldn't have been this or would have been that.
Was there a lot of back and forth with him, or was it basically just sending him off the stuff and getting it back? Or were there things where he would, you know, come back to you and go, you know what, maybe you might want to consider changing this or doing that, or you know?
Oh my God, thank God he didn't do that, because I would have, at that point when I was ready to mix, I was fried. I was done. I was like, I get this out of me. Okay. No, I would just send him the files, and he would just you know, chip away at it for a few hours, then send it back for my notes, run to my car, listen in the car. I have a great system in my car, so that's like my measuring stick. Oh, okay. So it's like, it sounds good in my Volvo, sounds good everywhere else. So yeah, no, he would send it back. I'd maybe have a few things, like maybe turn this down a bit or do this, but right. He pretty much like 95% of the time just nail it. So yeah, you know, that's where it's a good place to spend the money. If you're recording at home and you're doing it sort of on the cheap, it's worth it to spend on the mix, because it'll really bring it to a good place.
Well, what did you record it on? Just your computer and Pro Tools, or what?
I just have a duet, this 2-channel duet from like the very first generation. I don't know what year, mid 2000s, in Pro Tools. And one thing I also realized was that I was using, on the first record I made, I would record the guitars at home directly into my computer, and then I would go to another studio and then put them into real amplifiers, because you save money there as well. If you go in a studio and you're trying to find sounds and then play the part properly, you're going to be there for fucking a month. So this way I was like, I'm going to get the sound, you know, the parts done at home right. Have a dry signal, go in, reamp it somewhere else. And then a lot of times I wasn't a fan of like the way it was reamped. It was like, oh, I wish it was just a little brighter, or there's too much low end. So I just used plugin, like the amp simulators. And I explored them, was like, this sounds fucking real and amazing, you know?
Yeah. And is it a big adjustment though to record that way? Because I mean, you're used to, you know, an amp and a band and kind of having that, standing in the room of that sound, you know?
Sure, but in this case, when I knew I was doing it by myself, And I was unsure of how I was gonna do it. I just sort of had to like inch my way through the whole thing. So,
Hmm.
but one thing like years ago when like I have a one version of Pro Tools, I don't update my operating system. Everything's like years old, and I explored the amp simulators that I had, and I was like, oh, this is a Vox amp, and I know what Vox amp sounds like, and I just tweaked it a bit. I was like, this, you can adjust the microphone in the room, the size of the room. It's like this actually sounds real to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? It's just, the mentality is like, if you want to make good music, you got to have the 1965 vintage guitar.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
got to be in that recording studio playing through the vintage Marshall. Uh,
No, you
that's
don't.
sort of the industry sort of pushes that on you.
Sure.
And you don't. If it sounds good, if you like it, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, I sent Dave the amp simulators that I used and the dry signal in case he wanted to send it through anything. And that's it. He just worked. Yeah. So I just made it at home for, and the guy that played drums on it, this amazing drummer from Montreal. His name is Miles Dupierre Gagnon, if I'm pronouncing that right. He also had this was very helpful to me because drums are difficult. He had a great setup and all the right microphones and everything. So he was able to capture a really good drum sound. So he was in Montreal, I was in Toronto, I am in Toronto, and he would send me the files and I would just go at it, edit them to death. And I think I lost my eyes in that album and the album before it because my just staring at a screen for so long.
Huh.
But yeah, so yeah, I just did it all at home by myself, and then
And then flute
nothing
and sax
felt.
overdubs, of course.
What's that?
The flute and sax overdubs, of course.
Yeah. And then yeah, for the saxophone, my buddy who plays in David French, plays sax in Broken Social Scene as well. He just recorded that on his iPhone and sent it over on his voice
Perfect.
memo. And that's that's it. It's like if you can mix that in properly, sounds good. So yeah, it came to a point where the album needed some other like a sprinkle of something else just to give the ear some a little more flavor throughout, just to keep you engaged. So yeah, I added those elements in.
And this is obviously, I think guitar players will obviously love this album. I mean, you really get to kind of stretch out and, let loose on a lot of these songs. Who do you, who are your favorite guitar players? Who do you take pointers from?
Uh well, I really actually, when I was making this version, I was listening to that first uh Mazzy Star record. What's the record called? The one with the staircase on it.
Mm.
And oh man, what's the guitar player's name? It's out of my brain at the moment. I'm a huge fan of his style of playing, and that's probably one of the reasons why I got into the wah wah, because I think I revisited that record. Is it She Hangs Brightly or something like that? I can't
I'm
remember the
just
name of
looking
it.
it up as we're talking here.
Yeah. What's
She
that?
hangs brightly, yeah. And
Yeah,
you're
that's it.
talking about David, what's his name?
He just passed away last year too, I think. God, I can't remember his last name, but I'm a huge fan of his.
David Roback.
David Roback, that's it. So the way he plays that wah wah is really messy, sort of like the Stooges would use it, and I was like, that's a cool way to use a wah wah pedal. Messy, just sort of too fast and just fluttery with a lot of reverb or whatever. He's a huge for me because I like messy, sort of scrappy playing. I'm not a fan of like sort of super precision technical skill. So yeah, as a guitar player, he's huge. Is it John Squire from where's my brain today? Stone Roses. Is
Okay.
it? Yeah, he is another. He's an amazing. Actually, he's also very technically incredible player. But his use of wah wah is really cool. Um, who else? I mean, I love obviously I love Jay Mascis. Uh, the dude from the Verve as well. Like some of those early, that A Storm in Heaven is a huge record. I love that first Verve record. I like sort of like lots of reverb, depth, and just sort of like, what is that sound? I don't, something that, something. I like the weird stuff, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because, my video store in my hometown just, rented horror movies in the late 80s. Did that twist?
Oh, okay. Now we're going deep, huh?
Did that twist my brain a little bit? Maybe it did. I don't know. I've just been drawn to the dark, sort of the darker stuff. But yeah.
Well, and you could have gone that way lyrically, and you didn't really. I mean, you
I
could have gone
didn't.
all you could have gone all occulty on these songs. What were you sort of inspired by lyrically here? Because they're kind of interesting. I mean, you locked the door, I broke the window. A lot of them have that. You can kind of tell what's going on there just from the titles.
Yeah. I mean, this was also super new to me, just figuring out, what key to sing in for my voice, and also the lyrical themes, and trying not to be too direct, keeping things a little abstract and open, but also avoiding being fucking. I didn't want any sad, depressing themes. Maybe I touch on them a little bit, but they're maybe a little more abstract because,
world
I
banging
think
on
we're.
my door. It's kind of.
Yeah. I mean, that we were in the pandemic. The Trump was still in. Like, that was just like that was there. But I also made sure that the songs are all in major keys. So, as you know, that's a more like happy feel. But my vocal melodies are in a minor key, so I'm singing minor over major. So there's like a weird duality there. But I wanted to make a nighttime record, and I wanted to make a fun record that wasn't depressing, because I can't stand it. And I don't know why, but when I listen to the radio and someone is just screaming their bloody heart out because their partner broke up with them, it's like, I don't want, like, I want to escape and just escape, the troubles of the world. I want to go to a show and have fun, and just, I don't want to think about the heavy things that are happening in the world. And I that stuff is important to sing about, but it's just not for me. But the lyrical themes, I would say, there's some self reflection going on, and some social commentary, maybe a diss track if you listen closely. I've, there's some, yeah, God, there's some songs that are just personal struggles. People have maybe, tried to hold me down throughout my life, and I'm just, that's, you lock the door, I broke the window, I'm just gonna do it no matter what. We all have obstacles and struggles every day, and it's tough. It's a tough world, man. And there's a couple of those songs on there. I had a bit of a troubled childhood, and just trying to overcome obstacles.
Perfect.
But yeah. But I hope they don't. There's some lighter stuff in there too. I'm just, I just want to have a good time.
Yeah, and I mean the vocals aren't. To me, the vocals don't drive the songs. They're just another element in the mix. So
Yeah.
it really works. And I think, I wouldn't call them subliminal, but you really have to sort of focus in on them.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
which is good. It makes you, it pulls you in, as opposed to you Mariah carrying over the top of it or something.
Exactly. Yeah. And for me, I'm not like I'm very. I'm not. I don't have a very huge range, so I needed to figure out how to sing within like my range. So I'm more like a talky sort of singer. So yeah, obviously I'm not going to be doing all these frilly notes that are going to grab your attention. But
can you listen to yourself sing? Is it? I mean,
no, I can. It doesn't make me cringe now that I found the keys that work well with my voice. It's, I'm more of a baritone, sort of a Leonard Cohen, minus the incredible lyrics.
And what's behind that album cover? The whole.
Yeah, that is something that I saw. I think it was in 2016. The New York City Library released their photo archives. so anyone could see them online. And I remember there was some incredible images, and I saw that picture in 2016. I was like, that's cool. And then I saved it into my phone, and it was super small quality. And then when I was trying to come up with an album cover, I found that image, and it reminded me of myself when I was a teenager. I used to like, or maybe my early 20s, I used to just horribly bleach my hair, like box bleach, like it was nicotine yellow. It was absolutely disgusting. And it sort of reminded me of myself in a weird way, because when I was younger, I was a bit like confused of the future and just going through a bit of turmoil in my family. And it sort of, I identified with it. And so I was like, that's going to be my cover. And I tried to figure out how to, a friend of mine tracked it down, and I licensed the image. And then for the whole, the artwork, the whole theme, I just chased it. I was like, maybe I'll just take a bunch of pictures with my hands in front of myself and my face, we all feel like we want to do that sometimes. And every 15 minutes.
Exactly.
So yeah. And my friend who I met through Brendan Canning, actually Tess Parks, who sings on the record,
Right.
She took a bunch of photos of me, and we used some of it for the back art. On the back, it's me with my hands in my face. And nothing deeper than that. Just, sometimes if you find something that connects, you just chase it. So it's like, I found this cover, and I identify with it, and then you just weave all the artwork through from that point. Don't try to think about it too much. Just go with the flow, man.
And I think you said that you're already working on the next one. So this kind of opened the floodgates a little.
A little bit, yeah. I'm trying, because I was just so locked into making that record, and I was kind of on fire. And then I stopped for a little while. I had a son who's 7 months old, my son Ozzy, and thank you, the beginning of or at the end of July. So that's been taking up a lot of my time, as you can imagine, which is beautiful and amazing. But it's I've been also trying to write, because if you stop for a while, you kind of get cold. So I'm trying to keep going, just to stay warm, and see what will happen. Yeah, in the end, I'm just happy and proud I made a record. I didn't expect anyone would put it out. I'm excited that Arts and Crafts is helping getting it out. This whole social media thing is fucking terrifying. I've never really done it, with social scene. I just get on stage.
It's always canning, or who's talking.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not. Yeah, that whole thing is insane. So now I can sympathize with them when we're on the road, and like I'm on the bus and I'm just having a drink, and or Kevin and Brendan will come, or and they're just kind of like exhausted and just frustrated from all these interviews, and I'm just like on vacation. I can, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot, and what's expected of artists these days is it's different than what I think it used to be. Like it's crazy. You need to post more. What? Post more? I spent like an hour trying to make it's a crazy way to music. It's very different. So I feel like I spend more time just trying to post stuff on social media than I could have written a song, but you have to do that stuff. I mean, other artists hire people to do it, but I don't have the budget for that. But again, yeah, I'm just happy I made a record and it's coming out, and people seem to like the songs that I've released, and hopefully will like the record. All the other stuff, like playing shows, I'll maybe play a show or two here or there, maybe locally, and if there's demand to go out, then I'll do that. But it's exhausting.
I would argue you could ask for a cameo during the Broken Social shows, but then that just opens the floodgates, and you guys would never get to play any of the band songs because everybody would have to do their own cameos.
Oh my gosh, yeah, there's a huge catalog there.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't mind just hanging out, playing guitar, and relaxing.
To that end, I mean, you guys have some shows coming up, right? I think you've got a couple of Massey Hall shows.
Yes.
Is there more? Is there more booked after that, or are you still waiting and seeing what's going on?
There is, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything, because I don't think anything's been. But there's stuff happening, so there is stuff, which is exciting. I'm really excited for. But yeah, we have those 2 Massey Hall shows, and it's gonna be really fun, because our last show was in November of 2019 in Mexico City, the Corona Fest.
Yeah.
So
And have you got anything else on the go? I mean, you've been in 75 bands. Have you got any other side things happening?
No, I'm just trying to get this thing off there. Like, I'm rehearsing a band right now. There's 6 members. It's absolutely insane. Like, I have a show next week, and it's just like, yeah, it's in Toronto here, but it's crazy to just, juggle a band and just, maybe play it more like this. Can you not do this? It's just like just being a leader and just push. It's just, I'm just trying to be like chill and relax with the whole thing, but it's hard to be when you're,
well, yeah. I mean, somebody's got to be the boss, right? Now you got to be the boss.
I know, it's crazy, and I'm trying to have fun, and I'm just, it's all new to me, and I can't help but just, I want to have some standards. I don't want to just go on stage and bomb.
Mm-hmm. But I get the sense there's also a small part of you going, you know what? I should have just kept these songs on the hard drive.
True. Yeah. For sure. There's like expectations now, and it's taking up a lot of my brain. I just want to like hang out with my son and just hang in the park, but I can still do that, but there's like, it's there, it's like, you could play that, you need to rehearse. Anyhow, so that's my focus right now, is just getting the band up, and just I'm editing some promotional stuff for like a live thing we did in the studio that maybe will be released down the line. And then once I'm sort of done that, I think it's Broken Social Scene rehearsals. And then into the 5th wave of whatever the new virus is called. Just kidding. Let's not put that out there.